the test server or development server that you were looking at that doesn't have it?
Well, I was looking on my www.people.virginia.edu, and it does not have the most recent version of MySQL, or one that's new enough. Apparently, it's coming soon, but it's not there yet. I'm not sure what the state is with all the various web servers that are maintained by Unix systems. Some of them are going to work, and some of them aren't. PHP, it's nice if it's configured to use LDAP. When I start loading users into the database in a few minutes, you'll see I don't actually put their names in there. I just put their computing IDs in there. But when Mark brought up the administrative screen, it actually printed the people's names. It was doing a live LDAP lookup to do that. So it's a nicety, but it'll work without it. The Apache installation has to have NetBadge on it. That's what allows people to log in. You need to have a MySQL database server somewhere that will allow your web server to query the MySQL database. That's easy enough to do in the university environment, and I'll show you how to do that with one of the public systems that's out there for setting up MySQL databases. In this documentation, I don't actually cover the specifics of setting up a MySQL database on the server, because that's going to be particular to your environment and who your administrator is and all that kind of stuff. For Mark, it was he wrote the webmaster at the Curry School and said, "Hey, can you do this?" And they just took care of it. Most of the time, people can't create them for themselves. They have to contact somebody. But let's go ahead and look at dbm2.itc.virginia.edu. Is this familiar to any of you? Yes? Couple? All right, Marty's nodding his head. This is UVA's self-service MySQL server. So you can easily go there and create yourself an account and get up and running. I've already created the account, so I'm not going to do that. But I think it's pretty easy. I just did it a few days ago, because I've never actually used this service before. I don't recall anything being weird about it. Once you've done that, you can create a database. And give the database some sort of meaningful name, and I'll call mine remediation.
If I could interject here.
Yeah.
If you're doing this for your department, for instance, a really useful thing to do is maybe not set it up with your individual user account, like in PC3C, that's Molly's individual account. You can set up a mygroup, mygroups.itc.virginia.edu, and use that group so that if you happen to leave the university and somebody else needs to take it over, you just add them to the group, and then they've got access to it and you can modify it.
Right. I only have one radio button notch in there, but you would potentially see more of them. Okay, apparently I've created my database. Yay. Well, I need to make the tables now to make it meaningful, but so somewhere on here, there should be a link to PHP MyAdmin, which is a MySQL administrative tool.
Is that not the link? This administrative databases.
There we go. Now, this password was the one that I set up when I created my MySQL account. So this is not any of your NetBadge passwords. And it will not let you do that because this password is a little more easily exposed. So don't use any passwords you seriously care about. Okay. So I'm going to ignore most of the stuff on the screen because it's confusing and wow, there's a lot on it. Yeah, and I'm going to go back to my instructions on the previous page and extract these two lines here that are just what are needed to create the table. So I'm just going to copy those, and in the PHP MyAdmin interface, there's this equal button. There are lots of ways you can do this, but this is one you can do. And just paste that in there. Oh, no. Oh, I didn't select the database. There we go. I had to click on the database in the other column. I thought it would just do it because I only had one, but... Okay, So it created those tables for me, and if I want to check, I can click on the left-hand column, and there are my two tables that are needed for this application, administrators and users. And then I need to populate those tables. And there are a couple of examples that I can steal from this page of what the insert statements would look like. So I'll copy those and go back to this.
Do you need to select one of the tables, like user here?
No, it's written into the SQL statement. And I'm going to replace MST3K with my computing ID.
So you bring in the users.
Mm-hmm. So I'm adding Mark and myself. And, oh, what are you?
SAP16.
Should have known that. Okay, so I put this us in as users. Let's see if that. If I look at these, or somewhere and look at these. Yeah, they made it in there. Cool. Okay.
You want to put us in there as administrators too, right?
I'm going to put me in as administrator.
But Molly.
Me, and only me. Yes. And I'm going to go back to my SQL tab and put me in as administrator. And then I'll just check. And yes, I'm in there now as administrator. Okay, that's all I really need to do with MySQL. And there's some tips in the documentation on how to load large numbers of users into the system so that you're not doing a lot of repetitive commands. And that's what Mark did. He alluded to that. He made a text file and was able to do a big batch upload of it. That's probably the most technical part of what we'll have to do, is setting up the database. So, deep breath.
We've gotten over the hump.
Yeah.
Right, gotten over the hump.
Any questions at this point?
How was finding time to do this?
Oh, I worked with about an hour because I was bored. I love doing stuff like this. So. Yeah. Because I worked on, well, I'm a software engineer, and my last job, when I worked for ITC, I typically worked on projects for about a month or so at a time, and then I'd move on to the next project. And I've been at Alderman for over 3 years now, working on the same project the whole time, and it just...
Every day you need it.
I just need I just need to write something, and it's just beautiful, and be done with it. So that's what we did.
Yeah, exactly. Look at how Molly would want to do that.
Not freely available for
right.
hire, so to speak. See, I'm not a software engineer, so I actually wound up like logging in terminal into these servers and doing all these commands from a command prompt, and it took me several hours. And several phone calls to Molly saying, wait, how do I? But the way that she just did it, door prizes.
Bill, you can do this yourself. You know you can. Bill has taken my class on how to do this kind of thing before.
So what comes next after you create your database?
Now we need to set up the web application. So that was the database, and it just lives off of database land. It doesn't matter what MySQL server you use. It's just you need to be able to get to it from your web server. So we set up the web application. And I've made this easier since Mark did it. He doesn't even know about this part. But yeah. So I have tagged versions in here. There's a link to it where you can just download the source code for this. It's just like, yeah. So here's version 0.1. And I'm just gonna download this on my computer here.
This is Tara.
Yeah, that's a Unix format. There's also just zip for, Windows format. But all right. So my workstation here is actually set up as a web server. So I'm just going to demonstrate things on here. I don't have NetBadge set up on this. I don't have NetBadge set up on this machine. So you're just going to have